Between 1922 and 1927, cars built by the Sunbeam Motor Car Company had set the world land speed record 5 times. However, after breaking 200 miles per hour in the twin-engine car nicknamed Mystery, Sunbeam's star driver Henry Seagrave had parted ways with the company. Jack Irving, Mystery's gifted designer, had also moved on, and 2 years later in 1929, Seagrave raised the record to 231 miles per hour in the Irving-designed Napier Golden Arrow. Chief engineer Louis Cotillon was not one to accept defeat. To win the record back from their ex-employees, Sunbeam would design a sleek new car powered by 2 enormous V12 engines and tested in Vickers Wind Tunnel. Proven Brooklands talent Kay Don would drive, and this time Sunbeam would give the car a snappy name that conveyed sheer speed. To break the record set by Seagrave's Golden Arrow, Sunbeam would build the Silver Bullet. Sunbeam's 1927 car, Mystery, or the Slug as it was unkindly nicknamed, had been built largely from spare parts at the factory where Sunbeam engineered their aero engines and racing cars. For the Silver Bullet project in 1929, Louis Cotillon and chief designer Hugh Rose would start with a blank piece of paper and a budget to match their ambition. Aiming beyond 250 miles per hour, Cotillon chose 2 prototype 24-litre V12 engines, rated at 490 horsepower each, to power the Silver Bullet. With an eye on publicity, Cotillon asserted they might produce 2,000 horsepower if supercharged. On paper at least, Sunbeam were building a 4,000 horsepower car. The new engine's narrow V-angle and dry sump arrangement made them especially compact, and when mounted one behind the other in front of the driver, the result was a very long, very narrow vehicle, with a wheelbase of 15 feet 5 inches and a track of just 4 feet 11 inches. Coupled together, the engines drove the rear wheels via a gearbox and parallel drive shafts that ran either side of the driver, allowing him to sit low in the cockpit to maintain the car's sleek profile. Supercharged engines were a recent innovation in land speed racing, with the 3-litre Stutz Blackhawk close to breaking the record the previous year before driver Frank Lockhart's fatal crash. Supercharging the Silver Bullet's 48 litres would, it was thought, produce more than enough power to smash Henry Seagrave's 1929 record. However, rather than adopting sophisticated Roots superchargers, Sunbeam chose a single centrifugal design driven by the rear V12 and serving both engines via 2 carburetors. Long pipes would carry the boosted fuel-air mixture to each engine, helping to maintain the Silver Bullet's low profile. The alloy engines would be water-cooled, with an ice tank removing the need for drag-inducing radiators. From each V12, exhaust pipes would run under the car's bodywork to further reduce drag, exiting through a slim manifold that ran either side of the cockpit. With water-cooled hydraulic 4-wheel brakes and compressed engine air start, Silver Bullet's magnificent specification read like a record breaker's wish list. The car's mechanicals were tightly covered by a streamlined body, tested in Vickers Wind Tunnel, and featuring striking dual tail fins and an innovative air brake. The tail and a sculpted nose brought the car's overall length to just over 31 feet, and yet the body between the wheels was less than 3 feet wide. Current opinion suggested that a heavier car was more stable, and so the Silver Bullet weighed in at 7,500 pounds fueled and ready to run. This was almost a ton heavier than Golden Arrow, although aerodynamically the new car was much more slippery than either the current record holder or Sunbeam's Mystery. Cotillon confidently asserted that his new Challenger would be capable of 290 miles per hour, far beyond the Golden Arrow's recent record of 231. From the first engine parts being cast in late September to the car's completion in mid-February 1930, engineers at Sunbeam's Wolverhampton factory had worked round the clock on their new Challenger. Building the Silver Bullet had cost Sunbeam over £15,000, more than twice the price of its parts bin predecessor. The Silver Bullet's aluminium body gleamed in the daylight when the car was rolled out of the Sunbeam factory in front of an excited corps of press photographers. The engines had briefly been run in the workshop, but as with Mystery in 1927, there was nowhere suitable in Britain to run the car. As anticipation of a new record built in both press and public alike, the Silver Bullet was rolled into a huge wooden crate and shipped, untested, to Daytona. Born in Ireland in 1891, by 1930 Kay Don was a highly successful racing driver and household name. He'd set many records at Brooklands, most of them in Sunbeam's cars, and so it is not surprising that he was Cotelon's choice of driver for the Silver Bullet. Daytona was buzzing with anticipation as the team arrived. Interest from the American press and public had reached fever pitch by March the 14th, when Kay Don and the Silver Bullet posed for photographs on the beach. However, poor weather prevented any serious running, and a disappointed crowd watched as the car was towed back to the garage. The following day, Kay Don managed a couple of test runs with an estimated top speed of 160 miles per hour, although the Sunbeam's long wheelbase gave him a rough ride. Whilst they were pleased with the car's speed, back in the garage the team discovered that heat from the enclosed exhausts had melted the water hoses. Repairs were made, but unfortunately for the Silver Bullet team, things were about to get much worse. A couple of days later, with AAA timing officials in place, Kay Don began his first attempt on the record, reaching 150 miles per hour, before stopping abruptly halfway along the 9-mile course. After hasty repairs, he began a return run, but once again, the car stopped. As the team towed the car away, public and press who were used to seeing the likes of Seagrave and Campbell arrive and break the record with a minimum of fuss, were left wondering what the problem was. Back in the garage, the problem was all too evident. Fuel had ignited in the pipework before reaching the engines, and the resulting explosions had wrecked the supercharger. Without a significant redesign, ditching the single compressor and the long manifolds, and somehow fitting an alternative solution under the bodywork, the best the team could hope to achieve was managing an issue they couldn't cure. The team made repairs and pressed on. The Florida coast was plagued with storms for days at a time, and Don found the car almost undrivable on a beach left rutted by heavy rain. Time and again, as the press anticipated a record run, the car slowed to a stop, backfiring loudly. Cotelon repeatedly argued with his driver, exasperated and looking for someone to blame. The press too started to question Don's courage and driving ability. For his part, Kay Don was sitting immediately behind the patched-up supercharger, all too aware that if it became damaged beyond repair, at best his record challenge would be over, and at worst he might be hit with a shower of hot metal and burning fuel as it finally disintegrated. Louis Cotelon's behaviour became increasingly erratic as he struggled with the Silver Bullet's issues. Ultimately, he ordered that the front half of the car be painted red. It seemed that if he was unable to fix the car's many problems, he would paint them a different colour. The situation descended into farce when the AAA refused to time any more runs, as the car's appearance no longer matched the description on their paperwork. The car was repainted silver, and while the team struggled on with countless repairs and modifications, Cotelon returned to New York, distancing himself from the project in every respect. On March the 31st, Kay drove Silver Bullet down the beach at 186 miles per hour, but the car broke down once again before any more runs could be attempted. As the public lost interest, the press lost faith. Rumours started to circulate until on April the 13th, confirmation came from Cotelon in New York that the challenge would be abandoned. As the car left Daytona, the American press commented that the British team were returning home with their bulldog tails between their legs, having failed to get within 45 miles per hour of Seagrave's record. Perhaps more embarrassing for Sunbeam was the Silver Bullet's failure to outpace their previous land speed car, built 3 years earlier out of spare parts. Although they stated their intention to return to Daytona for another attempt, the Silver Bullet debacle in 1930 was Sunbeam's last land speed challenge. 4 years later, the company was sold to the Rootes Group, who produced cars bearing the Sunbeam name until the mid-1960s. Louis Cotelon moved on from Sunbeam in 1934 to become the owner of Lockheed Hydraulics in France. He died in Paris in 1962. The failure of the Silver Bullet didn't stop Kay Don's pursuit of world records. He went on to break the water speed records several times in the 1930s before founding a successful motorcycle company. He died in 1981, aged 90. The Silver Bullet was eventually sold to garage owner Jack Field, who had land speed ambitions of his own. However, despite extensive work on the exhaust and supercharging systems, the car failed to impress in trials on Southport Beach in 1934, where it eventually caught fire. Field sold the damaged car for £10 to Brooklands regular Freddie Dixon, but when he found little he could use on the car, the Silver Bullet was scrapped. Sunbeam's 1930 land speed campaign suffered more than its share of bad weather and bad luck, but the most serious issues the team experienced were down to their poor implementation of supercharging. They were ambitious in using prototype engines and greedily chased the high power output supercharging would deliver, and yet they compromised the whole concept with a single supercharger and extensive pipework to fit the installation into a tight space. A review later found heat caused by compression and the nearby exhaust system reduced the supercharger's efficiency to near zero and led to explosions that regularly burst the unit's casing. Ironically, it has since been suggested that if the car had been run without the unreliable supercharger system, the Silver Bullet might have delivered Kay Don the record. Unsupercharged, the two engines together delivered almost 1,000 horsepower, and Vickers Wind Tunnel had shown that Silver Bullet was more aerodynamic than either 1927's Mystery or the current record holder, Golden Arrow. Hindsight, as they say, is a wonderful thing. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and check out Scarf and Goggles for more tales of record breaking. Click the bell icon and you'll never miss an episode. Until next time.